This conference will now be recorded.
Hmm. Hi everyone. Good morning or good evening in whichever time zone you're in. Any one of you new to the class or all of you have attended the demo? Any one of you new or attending the class for the first time today, or like all of you have attended the demo earlier? Could you please respond with yes or no? Like if you are new, just respond with new, either in chat. You can use the chat feature, or you can just turn on your mic and then you can say there as well. If you have new, okay, one guy is new, okay. And along with them, like any one of you based out of India or all of you are based out of US? Any one of you based out of India? Everyone is based out of USA. If like I think most of you are from USA. Like if anyone from India, just please uh, respond in the chat saying that they are from India. There is one from India. Okay. There is two from India. Hmm. Okay, fine. I think we're good. So we're good as of now. So let us start with our let us start with our session. Let us start with our first session. So this is also demo. Okay. Okay. So in this, so you'll be spending your next 45 days of time with me. So me teaching you Angular CSS, like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Angular for next 45 days. So I have like so my only requirement for you is to teach in the to speak in the class. Don't think that like I'm not seeing your faces. I'll be always talking to a machine, so it looks a little bit weird to me. If it is a personal or if it is a classroom, then I usually roam around the class and then I'll look at people notes what they're actually writing, similar to what your engineering college faculty do. Similar kind of thing I'll also do, but though I am not the same. But here, as that option is not there, I'll ask you some questions in the class. Please try to respond. If you speak more, you will get more, you will learn more. And if you do make mistake, that mistake you will remember till end of your life and you will never make that mistake again. So that is the benefit of speaking in the class. Okay. Apart from it, I don't want you to have any previous requirement of any previous programming knowledge or anything like that. It's okay, like if you have already experience in any programming language, that will be benefit for you. It's not that it's a mandatory requirement. If you don't have any basics on any programming language, that's okay. We will learn some basics of programming language of JavaScript while we like reach our 3 weeks, I think 2 weeks of course. After 2 weeks of course, we will reach to JavaScript. There we will teach. There I will teach you the JavaScript and basic programming constructs. So if you have already experience in programming, like if you have not passed your Java course in your college out of luck or out of cheats or out of copy, then that will be helpful for you a little bit. Or if you have done your Python course or any course in your college, like if you have done it, that will be helpful, but it's not that it's a mandatory requirement for you. for this course. It's not required to be good at any programming language or something like that. We will teach. I'll think that you are pretty new and you don't have anything in your brain. That's how I will teach the course. Okay, so let's move ahead. So we'll start first with HTML, and then we will go with CSS, and then we'll after that we'll go with JavaScript, and then we'll go with Angular. That's the plan. That's the plan. So by learning all these four course content, all these four course content, you're going to become a front-end engineer, a front-end engineer, a front-end engineer, a front-end engineer, or a UI engineer, or a front-end developer, where you are going to be developing some web applications. You are going to be developing some web applications, and you will deploy those web applications, and then people will access the web application. Okay, so you see this one, right? Like you see this one, go to have a great session like this. You see, this is developed by some UI developer, some front-end engineers might have developed this. Like, so you just go here and you just type google.com. This is also developed by some front-end engineer. Like this Google, this is also developed by some front-end engineer only. Whatever you see on the screen, this will be also developed by some front-end engineer. What he knows, he might be working on this, any of this, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or Angular. He'll be working on any of these technologies, and he'll be building those things, or React, whatever. Okay, so let's say if you open Facebook, so this Facebook also might be built by some other front-end developer. Some front-end developer might have built this facebook.com, this login page, like that. Okay, so you are also going to learn JavaScript, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Angular, and then you will also build similar kind of applications for your company if you got selected. That's the final agenda of this course. Okay, so to build the courses, to build these websites, we should know some basics. So first we'll have to know how does a google.com works. Like if you open your browser and if you enter google.com over here in your browser, how does that work internally? Like how would that work internally? What is this? What is your age and gender? What is this? What has happened? Something has happened. This is some virus attacked my machine. Who is doing that? Some virus attacked my machine. Who is doing that? Oh, it's fine. Now it's fine. Whatever you have seen, that's virus. Somebody attacked my machine. Something is going wrong. Sir, I'm stopping my screen share for a while. I'll reshare it back within 2 to 3 minutes. I'll just have to check what has happened. Otherwise, there is a good amount of data which might be at risk. Now the Chrome is updated. I'll just check who has done it. Just give me 2 minutes. Sorry for it. I'll have to figure this out. Otherwise, I'll have a big problem. Okay. Okay, I understood the reason why that got happened. I'm restarting my screen share. Okay, so in the URL, right, rather than using google.com, so I have opened this google.com. So rather than doing that, I have just done govge.com. I missed the L, then I press enter. This is a virus site. This is a virus. This is a virus. Don't click any of these such kind of things. If you click any of these things, like, you'll be at risk. Okay. Okay, fine. Let's get back to our discussion. Okay, fine. Okay. So now, if you enter google.com in your browser, like, you are able to see some web page here on the screen, So we have to understand internally how that works. How, like, whenever you enter google.com in the browser, how would that give you this thing on the screen? How would that give you this thing on the screen? So we have to figure that out. How those kind of things actually work. Okay. So let us understand that. Okay. So now let us take this is your browser. This is your browser. Okay. So let us call this is your browser. Okay. This is your browser. Let's assume this is your browser. Okay. So in your browser, you enter google.com. In your browser, you enter like whatever g.com. Let's assume you enter g.com over here. In your browser, you enter g.com. Okay. So now what happens centrally? When you enter g.com, what happens centrally when you enter g.com? Okay. Whenever you enter g.com, first a request will be going to something called as DNS, domain naming service. Something called as domain naming service. This is called as DNS, domain naming service. So whenever you enter g.com in your browser, the request will go to DNS. DNS stands for domain naming service. The request will go to DNS. What is DNS? DNS is nothing but a dictionary or a kind of or some sort of contact list kind of feature. DNS is like kind of a dictionary or a contact list, like in your mobile there are contacts. No? Similarly, it's a kind of DNS is also kind of a naming directory or a contact list kind of application or a dictionary kind of thing. Lot of names. So what does this DNS contains? So this DNS contains, like, let's say if you're talking about google.com, if let's say you're talking about google.com, okay. So let's say we're talking about google.com. Okay. So I'm writing it here. If you say google.com will have an IP address, like let's say it should be like 172.10. Like that there will be some IP address for google.com. Like it will be google.com 172.10.10.92. Some 255 like that, like 230 like that, 23 like that. There is some IP address for google.com. Similarly google.com, similarly facebook.com. Similarly there are a lot of websites. All the websites will have an IP address. All the websites will have an IP address. So IP means internet protocol. All the websites, either google.com will have an IP address, facebook.com will have an IP address, Amazon AWS.com will have an IP address, Amazon will have an IP address. Like every website will have an IP address. This DNS server, this domain naming service, this DNS will store the mapping of domain name with the IP address. So google.com is a domain name and it has an IP address mapped to it, which is 172.10.10.23. facebook.com is a domain name, it has some IP address linked to it. Similarly, some other .com will have some other IP address linked to it. this DNS will have entries of all the domain names present in the world. This DNS will have that entry list. It will have that entry list. It's not that just one computer having this data. There are millions and millions of computers who will have this entries. Google.com, Facebook.com, lot of entries will be present over here. Okay, so whenever you type google.com, browser will make a request to DNS. Browser will make a request to DNS with the domain name. Right now the domain name is google.com. So it will make a request with google.com, and the DNS service will give the response. To the browser with the IP address. DNS service will give the response to the browser with the IP address. So DNS server will give the response with the IP address. Okay, so request will go to DNS, and then DNS will give the response. What does that response contains? That response contains the IP address. IP address will be like this: 172.10.92.23. This is similar to your phone mapping book. Let's say you want to call your friend. Okay, so do you remember your friend's phone number? No, right? You will never remember your friend's phone number. That is practically impossible in the current 2022 world. So you will not remember at least like 2 to 3 numbers you might remember, but apart from it, you will not remember anybody else's phone number. In this current world, it is practically impossible to remember. Also, even if you try to remember, also technology makes sure that you will not remember anything. So you will not remember the phone numbers, right? Similarly, it is easy to remember the domain names. Let's say if you want to remember google.com, it is easy to remember rather than remembering the IP address. So google.com is like a name, and IP address is like a phone number. So google.com will have an IP address, facebook.com will have an IP address. Like that, a lot of IP addresses are there. So you put a request to DNS, domain naming service, and that service will give the response with the IP address. So with the IP address, IP stands for Internet Protocol. Aravind, what is Internet Protocol? Not required to learn that right now. For you, it is not that much important. Assume that it gives some number as a response. Okay. Once the response comes to the browser, now what browser will do? Browser will send a request to something called as browser will make a call to this IP address. Let's assume the IP address is 172.10.92.23. Let's assume that is the IP address. So browser will make a call to that IP address. So it will do 172.10.92.23. Browser will make a call to that IP address. So what is present here? Here there is something present called as server. So browser will make a request to server. Now, so how does browser knows the server? So by the IP address. IP address is like a phone number. Let's say you want to call your friend, right? Similarly, if browser want to call to server using the IP address, it will call the server. And browser will request for a web page. Here it is requesting for google.com, a web page. So a web page, or let's say sometimes you see facebook.com /home. Sometimes you see facebook.com /home, right? Sometimes you see facebook.com /home. /home means we are requesting for home page. Similarly, /something like that means we are requesting for some pages. Array. Wait. /profile, you will see google.com /profile, gmail.com/mail. Lot of. Right now it is default. Means whatever is the default request, it's just making a default request. Or else, like sometimes you see in the URL /something, that means your browser is requesting for that web page. Okay, so right now it is not, we are not requesting for anything. Whatever is the default, server will just give that. Okay. So now browser will make a request to server. Browser will make request to server. Browser will make request to server. Right now the request is the default request, nothing else we are requesting. We're just making a default request. Sometimes you might request something else also. Sometimes you might request something else also. So here if you see Google Maps, so google.com/maps means we are requesting maps, and we're requesting some number here. If you see some number also we are requesting, means just navigate to the maps with some location. Like here there is something else we are requesting, but if by default, like let's say if you go with this one, we are not requesting anything, we're just saying google.com, the default request. Okay, now Google Chrome will make a request to the server, and what server will do inside the server, this server is nothing but don't think server means something is there inside the world or something, some black magic is there, nothing like that. Server is also nothing but a computer. But it is a little bit sophisticated computer. Some people will pay good amount of money to buy good hardware. Like right now, if you spend some money to buy good laptops, similar way those people also could spend more money to buy good hardware. They will buy good RAM, they will buy good CPU, they will buy good processing, good hardware like good drivers, good ports, all these things. Like server is also nothing but a computer. Nothing else is there. Nothing else. Don't think that there's a black magic sitting over there. Server is also nothing but a good sophisticated computer. Okay. So inside the server, there is application server running. Inside the server, again, there is one more software called as application server running. Something called as application server. So server is a computer. Inside the computer, there is one more software running. That software is called as application server. Like how right now in our computer, I have Google Chrome running, I have Gmail running, I have my Sublime Text running, I have some other softwares running. Similarly, in the server also there is one software running. That software, like let's assume that's an application server. Okay. So whenever the request comes, server will handle that request to application server. Server will handle the request to application server. Application server will process the request. Application server will process the request. And application server, once processing the request, after processing the request, application server will give something called as a response. Application server will give something called as response. This is called as request. This is called as request, and this is called as response. Okay. First, Google Chrome will call DNS, get the IP address. Once it has the IP address, it will make a request to server, and inside server, application server is running, and application server will process the request. And application server will give the response. Application server will give the response to whom? To browser only back. To the browser only. A request comes, application server processes the request, and then gives back a response. And browser will do something with the response. The response which will be given by the application server should be always in the form of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or some other formats, which we don't care right now. Some other formats is something which we don't care right now, but we are bothering only about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So the response will be always, almost all the times, it will be HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Okay. So google.com will make a request to application server, and application server will give a response. With HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So now with the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, so the response will be always HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Your browser will execute that HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and it will give the response to the user. That's what you see on the screen. So this is the HTML. Which you see on the screen. This is nothing but HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which you see here on the screen. Okay, so the request will go to the application server and the response will be always what, sir? HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The response will be always HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The response will be always HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So your browser understands only these three. Your browser understands only HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If server gives the response in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, it will understand only the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It will not understand any other different formats. Nowadays, like recently, they're understanding new formats also, but the basic format which browser understands is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If the response is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you'll see the following on the screen. You'll see the following kind of things on the screen. You'll see the following kind of things on the screen. Okay. So once again, the process. First, you enter google.com in the browser. First request will go to DNS. DNS stands for domain naming service. This domain naming service will give the response. The response is always an IP address. The response is always an IP address. Now, whenever you enter google.com, first request will go to the DNS server, DNS domain naming service, and the response will be the IP address. So using the IP address, your Google Chrome will make a request to the server. What is server? Server is nothing but a good, sophisticated computer located at some other place in US or in India or some other place it is present. And your browser makes a request to the server. And inside the server, there is also one more software running called as application server. And this application server will process the request which comes from the browser, and it will respond with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript will be traveled back to the browser, and then browser will execute the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then it will display the output on the screen. So whatever you see in the website, this is nothing but your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you want to see the HTML associated with this page, right click. There's something called as view page source. So once again, right click on the browser. There's something called as view page source. Click on that view page source. You will see good amount of code here. So this code is nothing but your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code. Your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code is this one. This is what the response came from the browser. Okay. This is what the response came from the browser. Once again, how do you see it? Right click and inspect. Sorry, not inspect. Inspect also you can see, or else right click view page source. Using this, you will see lot of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code. Any website you see, you'll see HTML, CSS, JavaScript only. Your browser understands only these three: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Arvind, will my browser understands Angular? No Angular, no React, nothing. Only HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, or some other formats which we will not discuss. We will see that later on. But this is the major thing: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are the required things to build any website. If you don't know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you cannot build any websites. So your browser understands HTML, CSS, and JavaScript only. Okay. So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript will be given as a response for a request. So whenever you make a request to the server, server will process that request. Server will handle that request to application server, and application server will process that request, and then it will give the response. That response will be always HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript will not execute in the server. It will never execute in the server. It will be always executed in the browser only. Browser only will execute this HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and it will display the website on the screen. Okay, but they will just respond the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code, but the execution happens only in the browser. only in the browser, only in the browser. Okay, so like yesterday we have seen some time back, like I think yesterday we have seen there's something called as front end and there is back end, front end and back end. You know why the name front end and back end came? You know why the name front end and back end came? Front end and back end came. Why the name front end and back end came? HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is executed where? HTML, CSS, JavaScript is executed where? In the front end. That's why it is front end. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is executed in the front end. Means user sees that code. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can see the code. You can just go to the browser and of any website, just go right click, inspect. You can see the not inspect. Again, I'm clicking on inspect always. So right click, view page source. You see the code. The code is visible to you. The code is visible to you. Whatever the code JavaScript, whatever the code browsers execute, that code is visible to you. That code is visible to you. Okay, that code is visible to you. So that's why HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are front end. Are in front end. Arvind, can I see the backend code? If you see the backend code, then your application server is at risk. Then you will get easily. You can easily get your code can easily get hacked. You will never see the backend code. You will never see the backend code. It will be always sitting at the back. Well, it will be always sitting in the back. Some examples of application server are like application servers are like Tomcat, JBoss. Tomcat and JBoss are like your Java servers. These are like Java servers. Tomcat, JBoss. For .NET it is IIS. For .NET it is IIS. For PHP there is something is there. I don't know that name. I forgot the name. Some star something is there. I forgot the name. Something like that. Tomcat is something which is very popular, which I use daily. Tomcat. Application server. The names of application servers are Tomcat, JBoss, and IIS. Okay. All the Java code, all the backend people, backend fellows write the code. That code will be executed in these kind of servers only, application servers only. Sometimes people will say server is down. What does that mean? Server is down means what does that mean? This application server is not working, or this computer is not working, or the request is not traveling to the server, or there is a breakage in between browser and the server, or server is down, server is sleeping. Multiple people are hitting the server. Server is like we see sometimes there is one ox or bullock cart will be there. There is a lot of load present on that ox or bullock cart. What that bullock cart will, that ox will do? It will just fall down. It will not do anything. How much ever you do, it will not do anything. And that time also will say server is down, because it is really down. It cannot handle that much load. It cannot handle that much load. So all these kind of things will come into picture if server is down, or means if server is down, request will go. Let's say if server is not working, request will go, response will not come. Request will go, loading, response will not come. Request will go, or sometimes request itself will not go. If server is down, request sometimes itself will not go. Or request goes, loading, and no response. Or request goes, throws error back. Like a lot of scenarios will be there. In all those cases, we say what? Server is down. That means server is not responding. If server is not responding, you will not do anything. That is backend fellow's job. That fellows will do a lot of work. What is our job? Like our job is like we have to check whether our code is executing fine or not in the browser. That is our job. This is not our job. This backend server is down. Those kind of things is not our jobs. Okay. Tomcat is down. JBoss is down. Those kind of things is not our job. That fellows, backend fellows will take care. The DevOps fellows will be there. The DevOps fellows will. Server is down. They will restart the server. They will restart. Okay. Restart will do solve a lot of problems. They'll restart. Okay. Redeploy, restart, all those kind of things they will do. If we see government websites, almost all the times, most of the times the application server is down. Most of the times you go, let's say if you take an example of LIC, most of the times you go to LIC office, server will be down. You go to SBI, server will be down. SBI office, server will be down. Those fellows don't even care. And government offices, server always will be down. I mean, that means this is not working, and they will not care, because if server is down, right, they will not have any work now. So that's why they'll not inform anyone. They'll just sit there happily enjoying their coffee or tea. Okay. So our job is what? Whatever the course we are learning right now, we will be building this HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And where is this code is getting executed? Inside your browser only. Inside your browser, this code is getting executed. So inside your server, it's not executing. It just sits there in the server. but execution happens only if you call it, only if you request for it, then only the files will be rendered to the browser, and browser will execute the code, So first you have to request, then response will come, and after response, Chrome will execute, Chrome or any browser for say Firefox or Internet Explorer or any browser, they will execute the code, and then they will give the output. Okay, give the output. Sir, have you ever heard the word scaling? Like sometimes people will use the word scaling. I have scaled the application, like that. So if you are increasing the number of servers, right? Here there is a server, right? If there is just one server, then that is called a single instance. If you are increasing the number of servers, that is called as scaling. Just one server will not do your job, then you'll add one more server. That also not doing your job, then you'll add one more server. That is called as scaling. It's called scaling. And scaling is also of two types, like horizontal scaling, vertical scaling, all these kind of things. So we'll not go in depth into that. But adding extra server to it is called as scaling. Okay. Our browser, we cannot add extra browser. No, that is not possible. That is not our job. That is backend fellow's job. Okay. Our job is to take care of whatever the code we have written, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, that is executing fine in the browser or not. That's the main job. That's our job. Okay. And you will get more paid than these fellows, these backend fellows. Huh? Okay. Okay, fine. So any questions until this topic? I'll pause for like 2 more minutes for any questions. I'll take any questions if required. If you are like a little bit shy to talk, you can ask in chat also, or you can also use private message, which is also part of a feature in chat. No doubts? Okay. No doubts? Okay, fine. Can someone tell me like some questions for you, like two to three questions? I'll ask. Can someone answer what is the meaning of DNS? What is the full form of DNS? Can someone answer that? What is the full form of DNS? Don't Google, huh? Can someone answer? What is domain naming server? Okay. Okay. So next question: where does your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript execute? Domain naming system, domain naming server, domain naming service. Multiple names were there. Where does your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript execute? At which location your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript execute? Browser. Server or browser?
Response through browser. Yeah.
Response. Browser. You will get response in the browser, and then it will execute in the browser. Okay. So where does your Java code execute? Where does the Java code execute? Where does the Java code execute? Not JavaScript, the Java code. Where does the Java code execute? In the server. What about others? In the server. Okay, fine. Server. Okay. Sir, please do talk. Please do respond. Response is a kind of like thing for me. Response is kind of thing for me. So, HTML, CSS, and Java, are they same or different? Sir, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, these three are different, and Java is different. Java is a different thing, and HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is a different thing. That we have covered in yesterday's demo. Please go through the demo once again. Like if you are new or if you have joined today, please go through the demo once again. Yesterday we have covered that. Yesterday, Java and JavaScript, all these three are different. Java and JavaScript, JavaScript, those two are different. Java is a server side. JavaScript is client side. So this is called as client. Browser sometimes also called as this is called as server. It's called as server. Browser sometimes also called as client. Browser sometimes also called as client. It's also called as client. Sometimes browser is called as client, or people also sometimes call it as user agent. It's working on behalf of user, na? That's why it's also called as user agent. Client, user agent. Sir, like in your college, you might have heard the word client server architecture. Very good. Big diagrams will be there. And I think computer networks or Java course. I don't know. I don't exactly remember. But in I think computer networks, something like that. Client server architecture, na? Client server architecture. So big diagrams will be there. There is a guy with mobile phone. All these things will be there, na? Nothing is there. This is your client. This is your server. This is your client. Client is nothing but your browser, and this is your server. This is your server. Where could be the browser present? Browser could be present in your laptop, or in your mobile, or in your tab, or in your watch. Possibilities there, or in your TV. Browser is there. Client, server. How do they communicate? Request and response. This is called as client server architecture. This is called as client server architecture. This is the client server architecture. Client is there, server is there. Client and server. Client server architecture. Client server architecture. That's it. Nothing else is there. Client server architecture. Okay. So client is somebody who is requesting for the information, and server is who is serving the information. Server is something who is serving the information. I'll also say this analogy for people who are new. For people who are new, okay, for people who are new, this fellow is like a server. This fellow is like a server. Server is like this fellow. Server, like you give a request to the server. Server will make the things ready, and he will serve you with the response. Like let's say you order for a biryani. You will send a request. You will place an order to the server saying, I want biryani. Then that is your request. Server will process the request. How does he process? We don't care. He will handle it to application server, or he will do some other thing. Let him do whatever the work he do, and then after the finally we get the response. What is the response right now? Our biryani we will get as a response. We order the biryani and we got the biryani. Right now here we are requesting for some. We are requesting something, and we got responses HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. CSS and JavaScript. Okay, fine. Good. So let us execute our first HTML program. Let's execute our first HTML program. Let's execute that. Okay, sir, if you are using MacBook, anyone in the classroom using MacBook can respond with privately yes or no. Privately yes or no, because you are going to struggle a lot. That's why I'm asking. Anyone using MacBook right now in the class? Please respond with yes, because you need to do a lot of work. Okay. No one. Okay, fine. Most of the people are Windows. So if you're using Windows, then you're in good hands. No need to worry. If you're using MacBook, then I think I have to explain a lot of things to you, but that's not a deal right now. I think most of you are using Windows. Then you're good. Then you're in safe hands. Okay. So to work with HTML, so let's say you want to let's say you want to execute the HTML code. Let's say you want to execute the HTML code. So what do we need? We just need a browser. Arvind, server right now, we just skip the server part right now. We'll just learn the server part later on. We'll just serve it from the local only. Your computer will be server and your computer will be browser. Both your computer only for demo purpose. So let us create some HTML file, and we keep it in our local only. Rather than putting in the server, we keep it in our local, and we run it in our local only, rather than running it from some server. Okay. So normally in the real world, this HTML code will be, we upload that to server. Once we have done the development, we upload that to server, and then request and response HTML will come. But right now, because we are not working with server, right now we will write thing that our computer only, what you say, client, our computer only the server, our computer only the browser, our computer only the server will serve the request from our computer only. Okay, so let us do that quickly. HTML is very simple, very easy, very simple. Just pay attention, very simple. Even third class, fourth class people, like in my last session, I think, previous session, I think there is a 7th class student who attended for HTML and CSS. So very simple HTML and CSS. Just you need to pay attention. Just you need to pay attention. That's it. HTML is very simple. HTML stands for hypertext markup language. Hypertext markup language. HTML stands for hypertext markup language. Hypertext markup language. So if you want to write HTML starts with HTML tag. This sir, is the font visible to you, or do I need to increase a little bit more? Font visible to you, everyone? So I think that is yes. Font visible to you? Yes. Okay, fine. So HTML open tag. So here you have less than symbol and greater than symbol. Aravind, why is this less than symbol and greater than symbol? I don't know, yaar. That fellows who created HTML, they have put that less than symbol and greater than symbol there. Okay, we'll follow that. We'll follow that. Okay. Sometimes you cannot question all the things also. Sometimes you have to follow things blindly. So HTML open tag. First, if you start writing HTML, then you have to write HTML tag. Everything it is called as a tag basically. This less than symbol and greater than symbol and HTML is called as a tag. This is called as a tag. Not the tag which you wear in your college, na? The tag which you wear in your tag under your neck. That thing only. That tag only. This tag also. But that tag is to identify yourself, but this tag is to identify HTML. So open tag and then close tag. Open tag and close tag. HTML open tag, HTML close tag. So if you want to write HTML has to be included in open tag and then close tag. HTML open tag, HTML close tag. HTML open tag, HTML close tag. Inside HTML. So for a human there are two parts, na? There are two parts for a human. There are two parts. There are two parts. A part above the neck, part below the neck. Part above the neck, part below the neck. What is the part above the neck? Head. Head. Open tag. Head closing tag. Okay. Head open tag, head closing tag. Part above the neck. Part below the neck. What is there? Body. Somebody is saying chest. No. No. Body. Open body. And then closing body. That's it. HTML, head, open tag, closing tag, body open tag, body closing tag. Sir, please remember this is slash. Slash. Please be careful with the slash. So I see most of the people are not keeping the correct slash, keeping like this, and then asking me, Arvind, my HTML is not working. The reason because you're not keeping the correct slash. You have to keep the correct slash. See the correct slash. See the slanting. It is slanting towards H. It is slanting towards H. Okay. It is slanting towards H. Like that I usually remember. Slanting towards H. Okay. Head and body. So what are the HTML you are going to write? We have to write in the body. Important organs we need to write. That everything will be written in the body. Head is just for styling purpose only. To put some powder, all these things. Head is for styling purpose. Head we don't use. Most of the times we use body. Here we write all the core HTML code. We just write hello world. HTML open tag, HTML closing tag, HTML open tag, HTML closing tag, head and then body, head and then body. Okay. Now this is your HTML done. Your HTML coding is done. How to execute this code now? Sir, I'm using in MacBook. So you have to use something else. So in MacBook, it is very difficult to work with text edit. So earlier I used to work with in Windows. You have something called as Notepad. That Notepad is very simple to work. But in MacBook, the text edit is like very bad fellow. That fellow difficult to work. So I'm not working with that fellow. So I have installed a new software called as Sublime Text. Sublime Text is a software. It is also available for Windows. It is also available for Windows. If you can install, then you can install software called as Sublime Text. The software name is Sublime Text. If you don't install, so that's okay. That's not a big deal. Okay. But if you want to install, you can install. That's not a big deal. Okay. If you install, then it will look similar to my IDE, my code. However I write now, it looks similar. If you don't install also, that's okay. Arvind, I don't know how to install. That's okay. Fine, not an issue. You can just stay with whatever you have. Your notepad works. Your notepad works. Your notepad works. Okay. So here you see download for Mac, right? If you're using Windows, you see download for Windows or download for Linux or something like that. Download for Windows, something like that you will see. Okay, just click on the download and install that software. Install that software. Sublime Text is similar to your Notepad only, but it is a little bit easy to work with. Little bit easy to work with. So you just go to File, just create new file. File, new file. Here you see the option. It is little bit simple, little bit difficult to see. You see, sir. So there is an option called as file. In the file there is new file. If you are using a Windows, then if you don't have Sublime Text, don't have Sublime Text, then open Notepad, and go to File, then create new file. Open File, create new file. Aravind, I am working on mobile browser. Aravind, I'm working on mobile browser. Mobile browser, I don't have a solution, sir. I have another solution for mobile. For mobile. That's why I told you, please don't join from mobile, join only from laptop. Okay, sir, please do along with me how I am doing. Just please do along with me, everyone. Go to File, open Notepad, everyone. Open Notepad in your laptop. Open Notepad in your laptop. Just go to File. Just choose a new file. Choose new file. Don't use any Sublime Text right now. If you're like good at installing software and all these things, you can do it after the class. But if you have Notepad in your Windows, just open File, just click on new file. Okay, so you'll get a file. Then write the following HTML code. HTML open tag, and HTML closing tag. Everybody write HTML open tag and HTML closing tag in your local. HTML open tag, HTML closing tag, HTML closing tag. Everyone, please complete that. File, a new file. After that, in the new file, write HTML open tag and HTML closing tag. Do it right away as I am doing. And then after that, write head open tag and head closing tag Head open tag and head closing tag. Everyone complete that. Head open tag and head closing tag. Head open tag and head closing tag. Complete the head open tag and head closing tag. Next we have body open tag and then body closing tag. Next we have body open tag and body closing tag. And inside the body, just write the text hello world. Just write the text hello world. Hello world. Hello world. Hello world. Hello world. Sir, if you are using mobile, right? In your browser, go to online HTML compiler. So just go to this link which I'm sending you over here. Just go to link and then write the code here. Write the code inside index.html and click on run button If you're using mobile, only for people who are using mobile, sir. Only for people who are using mobile. But don't do it every time. Okay, just for today only. From onwards, please use laptop. Please join from laptop. Hello world, done. Everyone done. Okay, now Control S. Now you need to save this file in any of the folder of your wish. So in any of the folder of your wish. In any of the folder of your wish. So just so I'm creating a folder called as career IT. Career IT. Your batch started on today, right? 28 career IT. Career IT. 28 2802. Career IT 2802 2022. So just create one folder with name career IT. Some folder. Sorry, your wish. You can create your own folder. Like I created one folder with a name. You can create any folder of your wish. And save the file. Save the file. So you see there is an option called as save as. Like in which, if you're using Notepad also, you'll get an option. You have to give the name here. Like if you're using Notepad also, like whenever you click on save, you have to give the name also here. If you have to give the name also here, just give the name, any name. Like let's say I'll call it as demo.html. So please do give the name .html for sure. .html. If you are not giving .html, then your code will not execute. Make sure that you have to give demo.html. Most of the freshers or most of the people who are learning for the first time do mistakes like this. They will give .html, .txt like that. Don't give .txt or something like that. There should be only one dot in the name, and it has to end be with HTML only. It has to end with HTML. Don't put multiple dots in the name. Okay, that will confuse. Okay, the name as demo.html. Whatever the name you save, that should be demo.html. Okay, now click on save. Please make sure that it has to be .html. It should not be .txt. It should not be .txt. It has to be .html. For sure, please make sure that you save it as .html. So click on save. So now once you're done saving, once you're done the saving, go to the Finder. Like here it is Finder. In Windows it should be like in Windows it is like, what is that called as? What is that? This folder structure. The folders, no? Finder, some folder or something, file manager or something, file store or something. So my folder name is what? Career IT 28 2022, and here is my file demo.html. So if you are using Windows, you should see like this. It has to be .html. It has to be HTML text. Like kind is there, na? Kind will be HTML. For Windows also it should be kind HTML. If you are seeing something else there, then that means you are making a mistake. It has to be kind. It should be HTML. Kind should be HTML. Okay. So now demo.html. Right click. Then we just say right click. Open with Google Chrome. If you don't have Google Chrome, if you are having Internet Explorer, that's okay. You can open with Internet Explorer also, or Edge also, or Firefox also. Anything is fine. But if you don't have Google Chrome, please first install Google Chrome. If you don't have Google Chrome, please first install Google Chrome after the class. Okay. Right click, open with Google Chrome. Right click, open with Google Chrome. Okay. So now you see here is the output. You see, here is the output. So here, if you see my URL is here. It is from file. That means we are serving this file from your local. We are like, your server is your local. That's why you see the file as here, and it is located in users Arvind documents career IT UI batch career IT some name /demo.html. This is from where the HTML file is getting rendered. Okay. If it is present in remote, then it should be like https:// something facebook.com/google.com, something like that. It will be there. But right now it is from your local. That's why you see file /user/Arvind/career IT UI batch career IT demo.html. That's what you see here. So this is your hello world. So once again, sir, the mistakes which people usually make, which I see from my class, not saving it as .html file. Is the first mistake. Second mistake is slash is getting like this is slash is not in proper format. These are the two mistakes which people usually make, which I've seen from previous batches. Okay, then you should see hello world as an output in the browser. Anybody able to execute the program? Please mark yes in the chat. If you are not able to execute, please raise your voice. I'll help you together. I'll help you right now itself to execute the code. If you have executed the code yourself, please mark yes, and you can drop off for the day. Yes, drop off. If yes, drop off. Yes, you can drop off. Thank you. No, please wait. We'll solve it together. Yes, drop off. Yes, drop off. Yes means drop off. No means wait. Anybody know? Anyone know? Anyone know? Anyone with no as an output? Anyone facing issues with executing HTML file, HTML code? Sir, don't get fear or don't get shy. No one. You are paying the money. You are paying the money. You have to ask, and you have to get the session is for 1 hour. 1 hour session daily. Yes, it is for 1 hour daily. Today I've joined little late. That's why I've taken till 9:10. Tomorrow onwards it will be until 9. But make sure that you add a buffer of 10 minutes at the end. Sometimes I don't see the date, see the time, and then it just goes until 10 minutes. So tomorrow sharp 8 o'clock. I'll start the session by 8:01. I'll wait until 8:01 and I'll start the session by 8:01. Okay, sharp 8 o'clock tomorrow our session will start. Today I'm facing some network issues, that's why I joined little late. Tomorrow 8 o'clock, 8 to 9. But please make sure that you add some buffer at the end. Please make sure that like plan for 10 minutes of buffer at the end. Okay. Anyone with no? Anyone with no, sir? Anyone with no? Anyone facing issues in executing? Please let me know. I'll help you out. Sir, mobile people can go to this link. And write your code here in the index.html. Just write your code here. HTML like that. You can just write the code here. HTML head. HTML head, and then you can write body. Body, and you can write here hello world, like that. Here hello world, and then here there's an option to run. Click on run. You'll see the output, the hello world. Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? If you have any questions, please clear it off, sir. Please clear it off. If you have any questions, please clear it off. If you have missed the class of demo, please go through the demo. Okay, sir, I think mostly no questions. I think from your side, we'll just end the session. Thank you, sir. Have a great day. If you are from India, have a nice, good sleep. Thank you.